12 le candidate hanno ottenuto i seguenti voti. L'onorevole Metsola 562 voti. Non ci posso parlare. L'onorevole Montero 61 voti. L'onorevole Metsola ha ottenuto la maggioranza assoluta dei suffragi espressi. Presidente Metsola, mi congratulo per la sua elezione, le porgo i migliori auguri per il suo mandato e la invito ad assumere la Presidenza.
Grazie. Eżis kollegi, eżis Ewropej, sens ta' umiltà u responsabilità nħossni onorata ħafna għal fiduċja li tajtuni biex nibqa' nservi bħala l-President tagħkom ser naħdem kuljum biex inrott din il-fiduċja fija u f'dan il-Parlament. This will remain the house of every person in Europe. Together we must stand up for the politics of hope, for the dream that is Europe, for the promise of our foremothers and fathers that is yet unfulfilled. 2.5 years later, I still want people to recapture a sense of belief and enthusiasm for our project, a belief to make our shared space safer, fairer, more just and more equal, a belief that together we are stronger and we are better, a belief that ours is a Europe for all. Ours must be a Europe that remembers, that learns from past struggles and recognises the fight of so many who stood for the ideals we sometimes take for granted, for all those who were displaced, who were disappeared, for those who stood in front of tanks and bullets on the path away from the totalitarianism that took over so much of Europe for so long, for all those who believed in better and who dared to dream. Ours must be a Europe that Adenauer, Mitterrand, Wałęsa, Fenek Adami, Havel, Weil, Falcone, Borsellino would all be proud of. Notre Europe doit être une Europe qui les honore, qui honore notre histoire commune. Il n'y a pas de meilleur endroit qu'ici, au siège du Parlement européen, dans ce symbole vivant de la réconciliation pour se souvenir du passé et construire l'avenir. Ours must become a Europe that is accessible to all, that everyone feels not only part of, but ownership of. Polarisation in our societies has led to more confrontational politics, even political violence. The easy answers that divide our communities into us and them. We need to move beyond this zero-sum thinking that has excluded people, that turns people away, that foments anger and hate rather than builds hope and belief. We understand that the comfort of such easy politics offers no real solutions. This is the House that stands for the opposite, that wants to build rather than destroy, that is not afraid to take the difficult path, that is able to find and use its voice for the common good. That is the counter to autocracy, that doubles down on the need to fight for the rule of law, that understands that we must truly all be equal in Europe. An equality that does not seek to make us all the same, but one that offers every person the same chance to fulfil their potential. It is the equality of opportunity that recognises our difference, that sees those different languages, different cultures, different stories, that distinguish us as Europeans, as are our strength. It is that strength that will allow us to ensure that the laws we pass here work for the people in every village, town, city and island of our Union. We must be the voice that ensures all of our policies work, and that they work well for young people, for families, for farmers and for industry alike. We share a responsibility to leave Europe a better place than the one found. And we will leave Europe a better place by creating a new security and defence framework that keeps people safe and pushes back against the expansionist dreams of dictators in our neighbourhood, that defeats the hybrid threats we are still facing, that protects Europe, that defends our strategic autonomy, that keeps the peace, that understands the threat we face is very real. We will leave Europe a better place by doubling down on Europe's competitiveness, deepening the single market, ensuring quality jobs, concluding global trade deals, completing our banking and capital markets union, and having implementable targets for industry. That keeps Europe's businesses in Europe and gives us the ability to invest in our youth, in research, in education, in culture, in our communities and in the rest of the world, by simplification, by cutting back on red tape and unnecessary bureaucracy that pushes people and jobs away from Europe. The successes that our people remember the most are the ones where Europe has simplified their lives. We will leave Europe a better place by giving real solutions on climate. Europe has a proud legacy, and I am convinced that we can remain a world leader and find a way to achieve our targets in a manner that keeps everyone on board, that allows for sustainable development to go hand in hand with the protection of our natural environment and heritage. We can achieve both. We will leave Europe a better place if we are able to reinforce Europe's social pillar, if we give people hope and dignity, if pensions and wages meet social expectations. We cannot move forward if our youth are unable to rent, let alone buy, a place they can call home. Europe's housing crisis is looming, and we must have the tools to help address it, even on a European level. We will leave Europe a better place if we finally manage to implement proper migration and asylum legislation. That includes necessary border management with a returns policy and, above all, that is human-centric. that ensures that no other mother is given a choice but to give her child into a rickety boat in the hands of criminal trafficking networks, that guarantees that Europe is able to live up to its historic and proud legacy. We will leave Europe a better place if we are able to harness the opportunities that the digital age allows, that artificial intelligence offers. We have to keep ahead of the curve and be in a position to reap the benefits and mitigate the consequences of disinformation. We have all the knowledge of the world at our fingertips, and yet people feel more lonely than ever before. It shows how much Europe must also mean community. We cannot leave Europe a better place if people are still unable to be who they wish to be and love who they wish to love anywhere in Europe. If we do not remove all the barriers that prevent people with disabilities in our Union from having the same chances in life as everyone else, if we are unable to fight discrimination or stem rising anti-Semitism or Islamophobia, if hate and violence continue to be a driving force of too much of our political discourse, we must deliver a Europe where everyone feels at home, where girls like Coco from Ireland are protected from their tormentors. We cannot leave Europe a better place if too many women are still unable to feel part of it. Too many women are still abused, still beaten, still murdered in our Europe. Too many women are still fighting for rights. Too many women still earn less than men for the same job. Too many women still feel afraid, and this must become their Europe too. We can build the Europe that Simone Veil and Nicole Fontaine dreamt of. The Europe that Marie Skłodowska-Curie was unable to fully harness. The Europe that Julia, Pellin, Anna Vanessa, Daphne and so many other women will never be able to see. We will do it for them, for all those unable to speak, and for all those who come after. I know that together we will leave Europe better than we found it. I know that when the world looks to this Parliament, they will see a house that defends rights, that protects journalists, that values freedom, that understands its role in the world as a beacon of democracy across the globe. La tendenza all'essere uniti è una delle costanti della storia, disse Alcide De Gasperi 70 anni fa. Parliamo, scriviamo, insistiamo, non lasciamo un istante di respiro che l'Europa rimanga l'argomento del giorno. Mi faccio eco delle sue parole che dobbiamo ricordare in questa legislatura. Dear friends, we have learnt that we can never take democracy for granted. We have seen that our European values are regarded by too many as a threat. It is a badge given to us by autocrats that we will continue to wear proudly. The Russian war of aggression against sovereign Ukraine remains at the top of our agenda. I went to Kiev in your name at the outbreak of the war. It was a visit that gave new impetus to our House, new visibility and influence. This House helped put the political spotlight on the need to stand with Ukraine, and that light is one that people rely on us to keep shining as brightly as it can be. We will be called upon to do more, and we must be ready to go beyond what is comfortable and do what is necessary. We do this because Europe must stand for freedom, for peace, a real peace with justice, with dignity and with liberty. Because in Europe we understand how to heal seemingly impossible divides. That must also be the guiding philosophy of our reaction to the conflicts in the Middle East, where even in the fog of war, ours must continue to be the voice of humanity, pushing for an end to the intergenerational cycle of violence, for a two-state solution, a sustainable peace, and the return of those hostages still taken. It is that role that guides us as we mark 50 sad years of an artificially divided Cyprus. We must be the generation that is able to find a way forward under the auspices of the UN plan. We must finally plug the gap that is so dark in Europe's history with a viable solution in line with Security Council resolutions and our European values. It is that defence of our common humanity that means that we are the ones to stand with women horrifically under threat in Afghanistan, with those girls and students on the streets of Iran, with Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, those unjustly jailed, and the movement for a free and democratic Belarus, with the brave Yazidi girls still fighting, with Yulia Navalnaya, who stands tall, with all those around the world who keep defying the tear gas running down on them as they fly our European flag high. This is what Europe means across the globe. This is the Parliament that the world sees, the Parliament we are all so proud to serve. This is the parliamentary diplomacy that will be essential as we defend multilateralism and prepare for enlargement of our European Union. As people look to us in Ukraine, in Moldova, in Georgia, for all those in the Western Balkans who have been denied progress for far too long, we must be ready to extend, each follow their own paths in a merit-based approach that respects the necessary criteria. We must be ready to face this new world and this new reality, and together we will be ready. So, colleagues, to renew our commitment to Europe, we must, in the words of that great European saint from Krakow, Karol Wojtyła, be not afraid. Not afraid to face down autocrats, not afraid to live up to our promise, not afraid to stand up for Europe, not afraid to keep building a union that works for all of us. In 2016, Jonathan Sachs wrote that a politics of hope is within reach, but to create it, we will find and have to find ways of strengthening families and communities, building a culture of collective responsibility, and insisting on an economics of the common good. This is no longer a matter of party politics. It is about the very viability of the freedom which was fought so hard and so long for. We need to construct a compelling narrative of hope that speaks to all of us, not some of us. And the time to begin is now. Friends, we can regain the narrative of this great union of ours. We can inspire new generations of Europeans, because Europe is hope. Europe is belief. Europe is all of us. Europe remains the answer. Vive l'Europe. Okay, so we get to work. We talk about the establishment of political groups. The following political groups have been formed. Group of the European People's Party, 188 members. Group of the Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats in the European Parliament, 136 members. Group Patriots for Europe, 84 members. European Conservatives and Reformists Group, 78 members. Renew Europe Group, 77 members. The Greens European Free Alliance Group, 53 members. The Left Group in the European Parliament, 46 members. Europe of Sovereign Nations, 25 members. There are also 32 non-attached members. The statements concerning the establishment of political groups referred to in Rule 33, paragraph 5, will be annexed to the minutes of this part session. I move now to the deadline for Vice President nominations. For the election of the Vice President of the European Parliament, I propose setting the deadline for candidacies today at 13:30, 1:30. Candidacies should be lodged with the Deputy Secretary General in Office R00.101, in other words, the Presidency Open Plan Office in the Louise Weiss building. The sitting is now suspended and it will resume at 3 o'clock, 1500 hours.
honor for me to introduce to you the re-elected President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola. She was elected by 562 votes, the highest result in the history of the President of Parliament's elections. Madam President, congratulations, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jaume, and good afternoon to all of you. Let me start by saying how honoured I am to have been elected as President of the European Parliament for a second term, to serve the people of Europe, which is a responsibility that I take on with great humility. I've just given a long speech in plenary, so I will limit myself to a few short remarks. First, I will stand for a strong Parliament in a strong Europe. I want this Parliament to be leading the policies and the agenda for Europe in the coming years, to be the legislative and political powerhouse that people want us to be and voted for us to be. Now, to do this, we have to keep pushing for the right of initiative, to make sure that we are able to improve our scrutiny and inquiry powers. And in my mandate, I will work hard to continue to build bridges and further strengthen this House. Secondly, entering a new legislative cycle, we need to turn the electoral messages into constructive political action. We need to deliver for Europeans on policy. And I know we can make Europe better. But to do this, we cannot be afraid of debate and change. Furthermore, we should also always recall that the successes that people remember the most are the ones where Europe has simplified their lives. Thirdly, we now stand up for the politics of hope. With increasing polarisation and even political violence, this Parliament must stand for the opposite. We must build, not destroy. We stand for the rule of law, our freedoms, and counter autocracy. We must remain the strongest of voices for the common good, and that also means continued and unwavering support for Ukraine. Finally, a strong programme needs a strong team. We are looking forward to the discussion on Thursday with the President-designate of the European Commission on her political guidelines, after which the members will vote. Parliament is ready, and if our priorities are sufficiently reflected in the guidelines, we will do our part and move forward without delay.
Thank you. The President is going to take some questions. There is interpretation in English, French, German, Italian, Spanish and Maltese. Who would like to take the floor first? Yes, please. S'il vous plaît.
Hi, Madam President. Oliver Grimm with the Austrian newspaper Die Presse. The Parliament has been asking for the right to initiative or a similar form of legislative initiative pretty much every time it was constituted. 5 years ago it was the same thing. It didn't come to pass. Why do you think the Commission or the Member States are going to grant you this time around?
Well, you are right in saying that the Parliament has long been asking for this, like any other Parliament would and has such a right. It was a demand that was asked for and actually committed to 5 years ago and reminded every year throughout this mandate, something I also did in the European Council. So as we currently are negotiating a new framework agreement with the European Commission, and we are working to correct the current interinstitutional imbalances that exist, also with our internal reform, we expect there to be a serious discussion on how to implement this. It will require a treaty change, but we also need institutional commitment. I will have multiple meetings, but I will also be meeting with the incoming President of the European Council this week, and that is also something that I will raise with him.
Next question. Yes, please, over there.
Hello, my name is Pavlos Pitas from Omega Channel in Cyprus. You have mentioned the Cyprus problem before. 50 years is a long time, actually. Can we expect any initiative from the European Union or the European Parliament on the Cyprus problem, forcing Turkey, for example, which is illegally occupied European territory, to comply? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mentioned Cyprus not only today, but also in my election speech in 2022. And as I said then, Europe can never be united while Cyprus is divided. I wanted to recall that again today in my re-election speech, but also because we are commemorating the sad anniversary of 1974. The political groups, actually, we will now have the first meeting of the new Conference of Presidents tomorrow, where they have asked for a statement on Cyprus that will take place tomorrow, and that is also then the strongest of signals that the European Parliament is willing to play its part, and the European Parliament is recalling the need for all other parties to play their parts. We have been very strong on this, and I think, and I can commit, that we will continue to be.
Further questions? Yes, please.
Madam President, Alexia Goulou here from the Hellenic Parliament Television. This plenary is going to vote for a resolution concerning the support to Ukraine. Do you believe that the NATO alliance will survive the second term of Donald Trump, and how this will affect the European Union in general?
So we'll wait until we negotiate the resolution on Ukraine. What I can tell you also, as we discussed within the Conference of Presidents last week, that there was huge support for this to be done in the first plenary session of this new Parliament. In the past 5 weeks since we had the European elections, Ukrainians have been asking us, where are we? Where has Europe been in this very difficult time of continued onslaught by the invader, as we saw a few days ago with the bombing by the Russians of a children's hospital in Kiev. So that will be, I'm sure, the trend of this Parliament. Majorities will still be very strong on that, and this Parliament will actually work with the other institutions where I'm sure the same direction will be made. As regards what will happen later on in other parts of the world, we will wait for the outcome of elections in democracies, and then we will see. What I would, of course, always hope is that the transatlantic relationship remains strong, because it is important for us, and it is also important for our transatlantic partners.
D'autres questions? Andy, take a microphone, please.
Yeah, Andy Bounds from the Financial Times. You seem to have broken the cordon sanitaire. I mean, looking at the votes in your favour, you must have attracted support from a substantial part of the ECR and the Greens as well. And I just wondered if that has any messages for how this House might operate, and how do you think you appealed across those divides, and what will you do to maintain that support?
I want to start by thanking the colleagues who expressed their faith in me. I said in my pitch that I am one to build bridges and create alliances. I cannot tell who voted for me. It was a secret vote. But I really want to use this opportunity of a strong message, and that pro-European majority that I represent, and the continuation of what I said on the day of the election on Sunday night, on the 9th of June, is that the centre has held, and if we also saw today, it's been very concretely holding in a strong form. So I hope to continue building on that.
Encore d'autres questions? Yes, please.
Xi tfisser din għal Malta? Riżultat storiku.
You have your headphones on, I will answer Maltese. Yeah. Allora, l-għalet grazzi. Grazzi tal-li edinaw, tajjeb li konna numru ta' ġurnalisti Maltin f'din il-Kamra u f'dawn il-konferenzi tal-aħbarijiet. Mux dejjem huwa l-każ, u allura l-appell tiegħi huwa anzi li f'dan il-mandat kif bdejnieh ikonna il-possibilità li jkollna kemm jista' jkun l-użu tal-lingwa Maltija, imma anki il-preżenza ta' ġurnalisti Maltin. Dan ir-riżultat l-ewwel nett jibni fuq riżultat b'messaġġ qawwi ħafna lill-poplu Malti ta' f'Ġunju li għadda, fejn il-poplu Malti ħareġ biħġaru u ivvota għal 6 membri tal-Parlament Ewropew minn Malta, fosthom jiena il-President tal-Parlament Ewropew. Illum jiena tlabt il-fiduċja tal-kollegi tiegħi u milta ngħid li r-riżultat li jiena ksibt huwa wieħed li jien ser naħdem fisem il-poplu Ewropew kollu, imma wieħed ukoll bliżjed mod partikolari u speċjali għall poplu Malti u Awċi kollu. Din hija dak li jingħad kif jiena dħalt fil-Parlament Ewropew 11 sen ilu u huwa dak li ħankompli nagħmel tul il-mandat tiegħi bħala membru tal-Parlament Ewropew u bħala President.
Thank you very much. Next questions. Yes, please, madam.
Yes, hello, Jade Gandin from French daily L'Opinion. What difference will it make to have the third group of this parliament to be an anti-European group? What difference will it make? Thank you.
So the first conference of presidents will take place tomorrow. At the end of the day, and we will also see how the voting proceeds for the vice presidents and the questors this afternoon. But what I can say is that majorities will be built around those who want to build on hope, not to destroy, and to construct a vision of Europe that we can work with. When I mentioned Europe being a superpower of rights, it is one that I can see is echoed across the chamber, and it is one that I hope can continue to garner large majorities. And these are the majorities that I will work with, and the majorities that can build. I think I am quite optimistic that perhaps contrary to what was feared or what was felt or what was said over the past months during the election campaign and in the immediate weeks ensuing, is that that centre would not hold. But I think this week it will show that it does.
And one last question. Newer, please. Yes.
Eva Toncheva, Bulgarian News Agency. You spoke today about the gap between expectations of people and what MEPs should deliver. You also said about Europe accessible to all. How do you believe the European Parliament could achieve this?
5 years ago, at the beginning of the mandate, we wondered whether we would have a Migration and Asylum Pact. We wondered whether we would have a Digital Services Act, a Digital Markets Act. We wondered whether we would have an Artificial Intelligence Act, violence against women legislation, and the vast draft of climate legislation that was adopted. I think that was the biggest testament to the fact that this Parliament delivers and this Parliament acts when it is asked to. Is the work done? Absolutely not. Would we have wished to go further in many aspects? Yes. Will we need to take stock and implement and be the ones that in the next few weeks, when going through the Commissioner hearings, identifying the demands and channeling those into what the Commission work programme will look like, is something that we will need to impose, if I would ask, in the questioning of the persons who present themselves in front of us before a vote for the College later on this year. And it is that where I can tell you, as having been a candidate in this election for the European Parliament, was the thirst of European citizens. We need more on housing. We need more on equality. We need less in some implementing of legislation that is unaffordable, that is unfeasible, that is driving people out of Europe. Those were the messages that we received, and I think if we don't heed them today, now, at the beginning of the mandate, as we request legislation, as we legislate on Commission proposals together with the Council, then we cannot come back in 5 years and say we did not deliver. The time is now. The mandate was given to us. The trust was given to us. Now we have to make sure that we repay that trust to our citizens that place their faith in us.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day.